Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come over this morning. I'm Bill DePalma. I'm one of the managing partners here at Compass IT Compliance. This morning, we've got a full agenda. We will be having Captain John Alfred from Rhode Island State Police leading things off here at 9 o'clock, followed by Tom Basiliere. Without further ado, Captain Alfred, a 21-year veteran of the Rhode Island State Police, serves as the captain of the division's Cyber Crimes Unit and State Fusion Center within the Detective Bureau. Captain Alfred is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the Computer and Cyber Crimes Unit and Fusion Center operations. He also oversees the Joint Cyber Task Force, which is a public and private partnership of cyber professionals. So thank you very much, Captain John Alfred.
Quiet day today in the North schedule, huh? We're going to catch up to me. Put my pockets at work. All right. Houston. Hello. Okay, good morning. So I want to get a feel for who I have in the audience. So can you tell me if I go around and ask how many, first of all, are business owners? Raise your hand. Okay, one. That's a start. How many of you work in IT? Raise your hand. Okay, it's mostly IT people. Are we IT overseers? Are we IT guys that are in the weeds? What are we? A little bit of both. Some people, are we talking big companies, small companies? More than 100. Less than 100. Less than 10. Less than 2. Okay, because there are companies out there like that as well. So I want to tell you first, I want to start off by telling you that today you pushed me almost to the limit to go against all my ethics as a trooper to put my lights on 195 and drive down the breakdown lane at 100 miles an hour because I was about ready to kill somebody with the traffic that it was in this morning. But I didn't. You'll be happy to know I didn't, and I did make it before 9 o'clock. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what the state police is seeing and what we've been seeing more recently since 2016, 2017. What types of attacks are we seeing, and maybe a little bit about how you can protect yourself. What you're going to learn, for the most part, is that if you practice, basic cyber hygiene, 90% of these attacks could be stopped. We talk about Equifax, and we'll talk a little about that as well, but everybody knows how Equifax got hit. These are people that are supposed to be protecting your data. I mean, the most personal data that you could have. That's their job, is to protect data. And what did they miss? They missed a patch, right? It's crazy. So, with that being said, and that in mind, that's me. See if I can figure out how to use this. I might need an IT guy. Pass that. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to 1981. So we got a long time to talk here. So we're going back to 1981, some 30, my math is correct, around 36 years ago, right? So we saw the beginning of MS-DOS 1.0. All right, if you think back to some of you that might have been any computer scientists from college, a long time ago that were in here. Okay, so you might remember MS-DOS to start off with, right? As awful as it was. Okay, so that came out in August of 1981. IBM introduced the first computer called the IBM PC in 1981. It was called the Acorn. Good-looking guy that it is. It looks a little like the Apple, very, very similar. It had a planner board, which is now known as a motherboard. We also saw the beginning of Kermit, and Kermit was a file transfer protocol. The first ever made it was created by Columbia University. All right, so this is going back to 1981, a long time ago. I found this in something called an encyclopedia, for those that remember what those are. It's called For the World of Tomorrow. The detectives of the future will have to be highly skilled computer operators. Probably be police computer fraud squads especially trained to deal with computer crimes. Here you can see a squad arriving at the house of a computer criminal, arresting him as he dashes away clutching cassettes. that details his computer crimes, and the police will need the evidence to prove that he is guilty. Absolutely true, correct? The only thing that might be off a little bit is cassettes, but that's not even all that far off, is it? We backup still use, how many people still use tapes to back up their data? Okay, not a bad thing, right? It's been around for quite some time, but people are still using it. All right, so why do I bring this up? Because I got nothing else to talk about? No, not really. Because here we are, some 36 years ago, we're talking about computer crimes. We're talking about the fact that it's a possibility that computer crimes are going to happen. Yet, our culture hasn't changed. Our culture is still thinking like it's 1981. Okay? We're not thinking, we've never gotten beyond the availability idea of, I just need my data. As we well know, the internet was not built for security purposes, was it? Which makes your job that much more difficult. Now we've come to fruition that we have to start securing our data. Right now in this country, we have seen the biggest larceny ever committed. Millions and millions of dollars of proprietary information being sold from your companies. Some may be in here that don't even realize it yet. How many days do you think it takes before you realize someone's in your company, into your network? Anybody want to take a guess? 200. Yeah, 150 to 200 days, that's probably pretty accurate, right? God knows how long someone was in Equifax. I bet you we still haven't figured out how long that's been. I mean, after, of course, the CEO and everyone sold their stocks and stuff, but we know, but before that, there's a good chance that they knew that they were in there, but didn't find out for probably 4 or 5 months later on. And we see that typically that's what we're seeing as well, is that we saw a lot this last tax season of accountants being hit. Again, another business that's ultimately responsible for holding your data. Well, I thought it was nice that somebody this past year did my taxes for me. And it wasn't to get me the money, it's somebody else got my money. My accountant got hit, and all my information went out the door. All right, so I don't know about you, but if I count how many times my Social Security number has been hit, it's been well over 5 or 6 times. And it's been stamped on, I don't know how many other more times. Get Home Depot, OPM, my accountant, it just keeps on going and going and going. I don't know what's going to happen. Eventually, I think we're going to have to get different numbers rather than Social Security numbers. How many people insure themselves in some way, have some type of data, personal identification insurance? Okay. I've had it for probably about 6, 7 years, and I firmly believe that eventually, just like you have car insurance, you're going to have ID insurance. It's going to come to that. It's that bad. All right, so what are we doing about cyber in Rhode Island? So like Bill said, we have the computer crimes unit, which came about probably around 2003, which I think the major at that time, were you at the beginnings of that when we all came to? Okay, so we had 2003, we started the computer crimes unit. It started off with 1 guy, and then was made into 2 guys, and then into 3 of us. When we first started out, we were in a little office probably about the size of this area right here, and we had machines that had no business trying to operate to begin with, much less do forensics. So we were trying to do forensics, and inevitably, every time we'd be in the middle of a forensic report or working on a forensic, the machine would crash. We didn't have the money for it. And nobody really thought about cybercrime. Nobody really cared too much, but it was coming. And it was coming like a locomotive. And the state police, thank God, recognized that we need to start getting ahead of that and start working on that. Right now, the computer crimes unit actually consists of a task force of 6 Rhode Island State Police detectives. That does not include me. 3 civilians, actually 4 civilians now, 8 local PDs, that's now 9 local PDs as of yesterday, and 2 federal agencies. Most of those agencies don't work full-time with us. They're only there part-time. We do have 4 agencies locally that are working with us full-time. But what do you think the lion's share of their duties are? Anybody want to take a guess? What do you think they do most?
Child exploitation.
That's right, child exploitation. We're doing 2 and 3 search warrants a week right now on child exploitation, child solicitation cases. And that's just not undercover stuff that we're doing, because we are doing some of that active stuff as well. But I'm talking about just stuff that's being brought in from the National Center. Child pornography, child solicitation, it's just craziness. So the lion's share of the work of those guys is dedicated to that. Probably around 2009, the state police, along with EMA, recognized the importance of cyber, started to recognize the importance of cyber. If you think back to 2009, how many people were in the cyber world in 2009 here? Okay. And how many of you had an office in the basement with no windows? Okay. How many of you still have an office in the basement? Some, okay. So, 2009, people weren't talking about cyber too much, were they? It took a little kick, and remember, going back to 1981, we're still not talking about it in 2009. But we recognized that we needed to start thinking about cyber. How many people bundle their stuff in like, cable, phone, and internet? I do, right? We started recognizing that voice over IP became the way to communicate nowadays. So we recognize that now cyber is becoming the way to communicate. And with that, we said we have to get in front of that, because if we have a disaster or if we have an attack, we have to try and figure out how we're going to be able to communicate. So we formed a partnership between state government, law enforcement, education, public and private sector, and had officers trained that are trained to respond from my office to a network intrusion. We conduct outreach to schools and communities. That's what this is today. We also participate in Cyber Patriot, Tech Collective, and we also have the Rhode Island Fusion Center. Anybody know what the Rhode Island Fusion Center is? Sir?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the Rhode Island Fusion Center is basically, for lack of a better term, a clearinghouse for information. So if you remember back to 2001, when 9/11 happens, and once 9/11 happened, we had to kind of look at ourselves in law enforcement and say, what are we doing wrong? How could this have happened? Why did this happen? And one of the biggest things that we found is that we as police officers, or we as the law enforcement community, don't communicate very well. So with that, they created the fusion centers, and what the fusion centers are there for is to exchange and trade information as it comes. And that's both nationally and internationally, real time. So what we're realizing now, initially it was for terrorist purposes, but now we're realizing that terrorists are using what? Cyber. Okay, so we've brought cyber into that fusion center as well, to try and quell that from happening to companies. So here's my pitch. If you're not part of the Joint Cyber Task Force, we'd love for you to join as a local business. And the reason for that is this. I'm getting real-time information, not only from the federal government, but also other private communities across the state and across the world, of different attacks that are happening. So if one person's getting hit, do you think he's the only one that's getting hit? Absolutely not. So I can share that information with you, hopefully before you get hit. And like I said, it's real time, so I try to push it out as quickly as we can. We're working now to continue to build in the state police. I'm hoping to get a cyber analyst in the Fusion Center, and a couple other civilian positions that our budget with the state right now is a little bit lacking, so we're working to go forward with that in the very near future. So my pitch on that is, if you're interested afterwards, Danielle Mahoney, which is sitting right there, that pretty woman with the white shirt, she is my assistant. If you can meet up with her afterwards, if you like to sign up, or you can go to the Rhode Island State Police website, you can go to the Rhode Island State website, you'll find there's a form on there to sign up. Okay? Enough said. All right. Joint Cyber Task Force, what is it? It's formerly known as the Cyber Disruption Team in 2009, and basically when we started it out, it was more of a thought, and we were actually the first one in the country, by the way. Rhode Island was the first one in the country to form this partnership of a public-private partnership. And what we were thinking about in the beginning is, if somebody gets hit, or a company gets hit, or a critical infrastructure gets hit in this state, how are we going to help them? How are we going to respond? How are we going to investigate it? For those of you that have ever been involved in an investigation of a magnitude of like an APT that hits your company, it's not easy. And even lower than that, you got people using, I'm going to show you in a few minutes what the Tor network looks like, okay? An anonymized Tor network. It's not easy to try and investigate something like that. We recognize that 75 to 80% of the infrastructure out there, the network infrastructure, belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the public sector. It belongs to the private sector. And with that being said, you know your networks. So we needed your assistance to try and help us investigate. So what we've done was we've brought the academia on board, the National Guard have people trained to investigate, and we started reaching out to private companies and public companies, local governments, local states, okay, to try and help us investigate. It takes a village. I know it's Hillary Clinton, I know, but it takes more than just one person to investigate these things. Okay. So also Policy Directive PPD 21 under the Obama administration was the suggestion or a policy directive for critical infrastructure security and resilience, which meant what it was asking for was the public and the private to work together. So that was 2015, okay, and we're still not quite there the way we need to be. Although what we are seeing is after we came up with that in 2009, a lot of states across the country have either mimicked what we have or created something a little bit different. But you're going to see across the entire country that you're going to have these partnerships working together. So right now, what we've been more involved with is educating the public and getting them involved and getting them to understand that the threat is real, quite honestly. Widespread viruses, cyber attacks. So we're not only there for a cyber attack, but or a man-made attack, but also if we get hit with a hurricane. Look at Puerto Rico right now. Those people are suffering, right? And why are they suffering the most? I mean, other than the fact that they've lost everything they have, which is enough to suffer with, but now they're trying to get through and move on. They have no electric. The grid's gone. I mean, it was rough to begin with, but now it's gone. And I don't know how they're going to fix it, quite honestly. I don't know. But with that, these people are suffering. Imagine if we get hit with a hurricane such as that, of that size. How do you recover from it? Is cyber important at that point? Can you continue to do your business at that point? Probably not. How much does it cost you if you lose your business for 2 weeks, a week, 2 days, a day? Some companies can't bounce back. Some of those smaller companies we were talking about with the two people in it, you can't compete. And we all know that we can't compete without the infrastructure and the network and the internet. How many of you in here right now think that you could compete in this world without the internet? Anybody? Or do you? Nobody. Okay. So what have we seen for data breaches? Target, 41 million, 2013. We thought that was a big deal, right? Credentials stolen, third-party vendors. Everybody knows how they got into that system, right? Contractor, what kind of contractor was it? AC. Yep, air conditioning. All right. So did they segregate their network? Apparently not, because they got into the point-of-sale system. Yahoo, 1 billion, started off with it, 1 billion in 2016. Now we're up to 3 billion people's information stolen. 3 billion people. It's a lot of people. Now we're up to Equifax, 145 million people's personal information. You know, who you borrow from, who you bought your house from, all of that stolen. That's 60% of all adult population in the U.S. Is that substantial? I say it is. Okay. 60%. What are we seeing? What are the prominent threats that we're seeing right now? Ransomware. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm sure you're all very concerned and paying attention to that. One just came out yesterday, as a matter of fact. The Internet of Things. Social engineering to include phishing, CEO frauds. We'll talk a little bit about that and what that is and how you should be aware of it. Mobile threats. One of the biggest increases we're seeing right now is mobile threats. And identity theft. And that's changed a little bit as far as identity theft. And there's some different reasons. We're going to talk about why that's changed as well. And easy to buy ready-made malware kits. We're going to talk about it's not always this genius that's sitting behind the computer that knows what he's doing. Sometimes it's someone that's binding on the internet to attack your network. All right, let's talk about ransomware. How many people in here, you don't have to write, well, I'll ask you to raise your hand. How many companies in here have been hit by ransomware? Wow, what a good crew. Oh, one, okay. A couple. A couple of people doing this. It's okay, we can admit it. It happens. It's happening all over the world to the tune of a couple $1 million to a couple $1 billion at this point. All right. What is ransomware? Anybody tell me what ransomware is? Want to help me out? Bueller? No. Okay. Okay. Encrypts the files on the disk. And what does it do once it encrypts the files on the disk? The ransomware hits and encrypts the files on the disk. And what does it do? Yes, sir.
It wants currency.
This is the bravest guy in the room right there. See that? You're absolutely right. It does. It asks for a currency. And the currency, you said, is a Bitcoin usually, right? That's right. What's a Bitcoin? Want to help me out with that?
Bitcoin is a electronic currency that's harder to track than normal.
You got to be the owner's son, right? Yeah. We didn't set that up either. I didn't tell him. Yeah, he's absolutely right. It's a virtual currency, and it's harder to track. Okay, and we can spend a whole day talking about Bitcoins, but that's what it is. A Bitcoin is a virtual currency, and it's very difficult to track. That's why they're looking for you to pay them that way. So they encrypt your data on your drive, and it usually comes in. Most times we're seeing either on a website with a link that you clicked on, or through an email. Okay. Why do you think right now, this time of year, we'll see an increase in these ransomwares? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Oh, yes, sir.
Because it's getting around holidays and emails from companies saying 50% sales.
Okay, 50%, good job. 50% sales, but what else? What else? What else do we wait for? Who buys in a big box store anymore? Most people don't, right? Where are they? Amazon, right? So how do you get your packages? Come on, people, help me out. Come on. It's mailed to you, right? So you're getting the package in the mail, so you wait for that package to come, and while you're waiting, you want to know when it's coming, right? Because we can't wait. So you go online and you go into your email, and you look to see when it's coming. And sure, lo and behold, you get an email from UPS, and it says, your package is about to arrive, and you click on that link, don't you? Yes, you do. At least a lot of people do, because billions of dollars are being lost this way, all right? So they click on it, and when they do, the machine starts to get encrypted. So you can't access the system. You can try to shut it off and try to put it back on. I've seen every trick in the book. It does not work. I will tell you this. We had a woman that spoke at the presentation we did last night. She, a local business owner. She owns a casket company, actually, her and her husband. And she was looking for employees, and she was getting emails from a reputable, like a headhunter company. And when she looked in her trash, she saw there was an email in there that she thought she missed. She clicked on it. Person's resume, it was actually a zip file, very dangerous. Clicks on a zip file, blows up her machine. She gets hit with the malware, but she was smart enough, or had the forethought to unplug it from the network. Best thing she could have done, because it didn't get to the rest of the network. And with that being said, how many people put their backups on their network? Lots? Some? Okay. Do you know that if you get hit with a ransomware, well, 99% of them now that are out there, it's going to go sideways in your network. They'll shoot that point. The thing I want to stress to you the most about ransomware is
there's no other licensing they will need. It's just like
keep it on network as a secondary, but make sure you have another one off either. Well, I would love to have you either off base someplace outside that building, but somewhere else besides your network. And the other thing I want to tell you is this, and I've seen this a million times with people calling in. If you have backups and you're pretty proud of that, make sure they work. Because a lot of times, the first time you try to rebuild your network is when this happens. And it doesn't work. And then you're like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I had a local police department that lost 7 years of data. 7 years of law enforcement work, and that's pictures, documents, and everything. This was in the beginning of the ransomware craze, and we were able to go in there and actually rebuild some of the structure, because it didn't encrypt the whole data, the whole file. It only encrypted the header, first 250 characters of the actual files, and we were able to rebuild it by a duplication. But most people haven't been that lucky. We weren't able to rebuild the picture, so. All right. Email might look something like this. Notice I said it's a zip file right here. Zip files can be bad, very, very bad. Okay. A lot of times it's going to be a PDF. Many times we've seen even a Word document with some type of infection in the macros in the Word document. Okay. So, typical kind of an example, courier was unable to deliver your parcel. Please open email attachment to print shipment label. Okay. I also mentioned, if you remember in the beginning, that also on websites, we've seen people's machines infected that way by a drive-by, where you're either a drive-by where you're on a site and you go to click on a link and that website's infected. That can happen as well. I'm going to, a quick, not an advertisement, there's a company out of Massachusetts called, what's the name of it now? There's a program called Ransom Free. Cybersecurity, thank you. They've come up with a good idea, and their idea is that this particular tool that they've come up with, it recognizes when your machine starts to encrypt and stops right away and says, do you really want this to happen? And that's the first real company I've seen that has done that, and I think it's been effective. It is free. If you go onto their webpage, there is a paid version as well, but just an aside note, I have spoken to those people, and I think they've come up with a pretty good idea. And I'm not, state police does not support them in either way. I don't get paid for them from either way. I'm just telling you, as a company, you might want to take a look at that. All right, the Internet of Things. Oh, question. No, that's a good question. Yes, you should probably report it to me. Because, like I told you with the Fusion Center, if it's a newer strain of ransomware, we can send it to the MSISAC, and we can put it out across the country saying we got hit with this. Or do you recognize this? The other part of it is there are some remedies for some of the older ransomwares that are out there right now. So if you go to the website, it's the New Jersey. So type in New Jersey State Police cyber crimes. They've got a list of probably about, 15 to 20 older ones that have been remedied, and it gives you keys. So you might want to take a look at that first. But yeah, I would like you to report it to me that, yes, we'd like that information. Okay, the Internet of Things. They're saying about 26 billion devices will be connected by 2020. Saying 26 billion. That's a lot of devices. What type of devices are we talking about? How many people have a Nest in their house? A couple of us? No, don't want it. I'm with you. Okay, you know, Nest is the thermostat that's Wi-Fi controlled. How about Alexa? How many people have Alexa in their house? Okay, yeah. Internet of Things. How about coffee makers? How about cable boxes? Probably never even thought about them being the Internet of Things, but they are. What did we see? Did we see attack recently with cable boxes attacking? Yeah, they attacked one of the biggest DNS servers in the country. It almost took down half the internet for a bit. Okay, so yeah, all those different things that are out there. What's the one problem with them? Not getting patched, but before that, before they were even patched.
Security isn't designed into the product.
Thank you. Excellent answer. That's right. The security was not designed into the product. So we're going back to 1981 again. Availability. We've got available, but we're not securing it. Okay, it's a real problem, and it's across spectrums. Whether it be a Linux machine, or it be a Microsoft. I don't care what it is. It's not built into it. There's no security. So all those things are already out there, and with them being out there, they're not secure. So how do you fight against that? You as a business IT person, how do you fight against that? 54% of top performing companies will invest more in sensors this year. 54%, more than half. So here's the bottom line. 4 to 11 trillion economic impact. It's all about money, right? And how quickly can we move? How quickly can we speed along? Anybody have I haven't seen this yet. Anybody seen an alarm clock that's connected to the internet? Does anybody have one of those? Coffee maker? Refrigerator? There's a few of those out there. Yep, okay. A couple of refrigerators, good. Does it tell you when something's going bad, or? I'm a geek, but I don't think I'm that geeky. Supposed to. It hasn't worked?
On milk.
It does work on milk. How does it know you put the milk in?
Just tags on the cartons.
Oh, giddy up. All right. Okay, big one right here, social engineering. What is social engineering? I think we all know, especially if you're IT people in here, what social engineering is. And this is the best way into your company, isn't it? We can build the largest walls. We can throw as much money as we want at IT, which probably doesn't happen to most of you. We can get the best firewall, right? But if I can get in and get to that person behind the keyboard, it's much easier, isn't it? It's 100 times easier. I'm going to tell you this. 99% of the people that get social engineered didn't want to be social engineered. But they did, because it's human. It's human. It's human to interact with people. It's human to be curious. It's human to want to click on that link. Okay? Social engineering is leveraging human weaknesses. And once they get inside, what do? Spread, right? They spread out. They try to go sideways. It's what happened in Target. They got into their air conditioning systems, went sideways, and found the point of sales. So you're manipulating human nature to gain access to a system that is typically referred to as social engineer, okay? It's more effective to make an educated guess about a password than to hack into a system. That's absolutely true. And we're getting better and better, I think, with the hardware part of securing our networks, but not so great with our social engineering. How many of you in the room have some type of training exercise for your employees? I would put that at the top of my list of things that need to be done in my company to protect your company. You have to train the employee, because that employee at the lowest level, whether he's pushing a broom or he's your CEO, needs to know. And you also have to make sure that the CEO respects that you need that time. And that CEO has to do the training as well. I know there's a few here kind of grinning right now, because you know your CEOs won't even take the time to look at it probably, right? And we've seen it across the board. That happens all the time. If you're a CEO in a small company, 2 people, 5 people, 100 people, or a CEO in a large company, and you don't care about cyber, you won't be a CEO much longer. You're going to be gone. The days of a CEO saying, I didn't know, that was the guy with the mushrooms going out of his ears in the basement. That's his job, to make sure that we're secure. Those days are gone. It's your responsibility. Equifax, that guy's gone. He should be gone. Okay? I'm sure he wasn't the guy that's supposed to be down there patching, but it wasn't patching. He's the CEO. He's gone. All right? So you need to make sure your people understand the threats that are coming at them, and make sure that they recognize them. I had a local town that called me the other day, town manager. He said, hey, I just want to let you know that we had a social engineering attack. And the social engineering attack was a business executive compromise. Anybody know what this is? Okay, you probably heard of this. We've seen a huge increase of these the last 1.5 to 2 years, because it's easy. So what happened was he was out of the office, and lo and behold, his finance director gets an email saying, hey, are you in the office? So with that, the next thing, yeah, I'm in the office. Now, when she sees it, it's coming from the town manager, whatever his name was, okay? So she thinks it's coming from the town manager, but in actuality, it's coming from this person here, which is a hyperlink, okay? So he thinks the name is in front here, so it's been spoofed to make it look like it's coming from the manager. It's not coming from the manager. And then when she gets back, yeah, I'm in the office. Well, I need money wired to, such and such, COGS, whatever it is, $17,000 by this afternoon. How many of you use Office 365? Okay, good percentage. And when an executive goes out and about or is going on vacation, he puts a notice up saying that I'll be out of the office till next week. Do you have many executives that do that? Probably, because they want people to know that if someone's looking for them, they're not in the office. Okay, automatic reply. How many of them do it outside of agency? If you're doing it outside of agency, you shouldn't be doing that because that notifies these little trolls that are on the internet looking for this information to find out that that person's out of the office. So it makes it easier to set up the scam to say, hey, oh yeah, no one else knows he's out of the office, so it must be coming from him, right? What I tell companies is right now, the first thing you should do when you get back is to come up with a policy that anytime any money is wired, wired in particular, because once it's wired, it's gone. Well, not completely. We're working together with the FBI to catch some of the bigger dollars to stop it as long as it doesn't come out of the bank yet. But they're putting legitimate bank accounts on here, so it goes to a legitimate, well, it's not a legitimate account, but a legitimate, like a real bank account. It's going to a real bank account, but it's a bad bank account. And if that money's being wired there, you need to have a face-to-face conversation or a conversation on the phone to say, did you really send that to me or did you not? Because I can't tell you how many times a week later or a week goes by, we had a company in Rhode Island that around tax time, this is another scam as part of the BEC, I really need, the finance director sends one of his agents in his office, I need all the W-2s for everybody in the office because I gotta file some paperwork with for taxes. Every single W-2 for every employee in that office went to some knucklehead. That hurts. And that can put a business out of business, okay? So anytime something seems a little suspect, that person needs to ask the question. Thank God in this town, the finance director said, first of all, that doesn't look like how he would email me. She recognized that. And she called him, didn't get him the first time, said, I'm still not going to send the money. Called him a second time, and thank God she got a hold of me. He goes, nah, I didn't send that email. And then she started hovering over this and found out it came back to Fish Me or whoever the heck it was, that it wasn't legitimately the manager. So BECs, huge uptick in those in the past year and a half. Mobile threats. How many people use iOS in your business? And you do that, why? Over Android. Why would you do it over Android? More secure, right? At least that's what we've been told. What we're seeing is a huge increase in malware to iOS phones. If you think about it, how many of us actually carry these around now? Not many of us, right? It's all going to the phone, or it's all going to a tablet. It's going mobile. And with that going mobile, the bad guys recognize that all the enterprises, like all just raise your hand, are probably going to iOS is because they're more secure. Well, they've found ways to get into, to attack those phones. Add and click malware. Now let's talk a little bit about Android phones. So the question comes, are they secure? Are they not secure? Why are they not secure? Anybody want to weigh in on that?
It's easier to get a malicious application on the Android site, on the Android store, than it is to get a malicious application.
Yeah, why is that? You're right, but why is that?
The iPhone store screens the code better, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that too. They probably do. iPhone certainly screens it because they know the business counts on it. But it's also what? What is Android? It's open source, right? So I can write an app, you can write an app, anyone can write an app and put it in the Google Play. And a lot of times they're infected. And sometimes not so noticeable. So is Android a little more secure? I mean, a little less secure? Probably. But they still both have their issues. And we're starting to see what they call SMS phishing attacks. So messages that are being sent to a phone, an iPhone, that they're infecting the phone that way. So they're not getting it from the app, but the message being sent to a phone, let's say it's a CEO or whatever, and they click on it, whether it's a link in that, they infect their phone and don't even know it. Most people don't even know their mobile phone is infected. I had a woman that came to me last night and said, you know, I don't go on my computer and do my email, but somehow my email is being sent to people in my mailbox, and I'm not sending it to them. Well, I said, well, where do you do your email? How do you do it? I said, do you have any antivirus on your phone? She said, no. Her phone was infected, but she doesn't even know it. How many of you let your employees plug their phones into the network at work? Well, you know, they want to listen to Pandora. Don't hurt anybody's feelings. Let them plug it in, right? No. Okay. I don't suggest that you let anybody plug stuff into the network while they're working. even if it's to charge. I mean, you can shut the phone off, so all it's doing is not accessing the computer, but I'm not a big fan of plugging anything into the network, because we don't know how many phones are actually infected. Probably proprietary data on the phone, because if you're a businessman, you spend a lot of time traveling, and your business is on your phone. All right, ready-made kits is what's the last one we're going to talk about. Right now on the dark web, there's probably over a billion or a million, let's say a million different availabilities of ready-made kits to go on and to break into your computers and your network. Go back to ransomware. Back about 2012, the guy that came up with the first code for ransomware recognized that he was making decent money, but he wasn't making as much money as he probably could. So he says, if I can sell this code online, I can make more money than on top of infecting people's machines. So that's what he did. He put the code up online and sold it for like $100 for a full kit of ransomware. So I don't know anything about coding. I don't have to know anything about coding. I just buy that kit, send it out to a bunch of people, and hopefully I'm going to make some money on the ransomware. But the problem with that is, as ransomware has grown and changed, the people that don't know how to code are still trying to send stuff out and are sending stuff out and are unable to come forward with the money that they're asking for in Bitcoins, because it doesn't work. You just know that your data is encrypted and you can't get it back. All right? And that's another point. If your data gets encrypted, I don't recommend it. I know it's so difficult to tell companies this to pay the ransom, because not only does it encourage the activity and maybe support some type of terrorist activity, but there's a chance you're not going to get your data back. I know it's easy for me to say because I'm not sitting there with 10 years of data going, but we don't recommend you do. All right, so once it's launched, you can find vulnerable networks to take control of the system. Metasploit, anybody work with Metasploit? I know you have, a few of you have, okay? Metasploit is basically a hacking tool, is what it is. And it's mostly supposed to be for pen testers to check vulnerabilities within networks, but the bad guy, anything that's good gets used badly. So the modules can be downloaded at Metasploit to try and break into your network. Identity theft. Why do you think identity theft has increased in the last year? Why have we seen an uptick in identity theft itself? Just straight identity theft. All right. What'd you say? Credit card chip. She's right. Why? Why do you think the credit card chip makes a difference? Or does it? Exactly. So now, if I want to use my credit card and go into Macy's and buy something and plug it in, I got to use the chip. If you don't have the chip and you don't have the card in your hand and you can't sign, then you can't cash in, although you can do it online, right?
Yeah, isn't that it? I mean, isn't there more theft with card not present?
There is, but we've seen an increase in identity theft because now I can steal your identity and order my own credit card with your identity, right? And I have one with a chip, so I can go knock it dead for the next 2 days, and kill it and destroy your credit and make up the money. So we've seen a big uptick on that. And we assume that's part of the reason why that's happening. But yes, you're right. A lot of it is online, so it doesn't make that much of a difference if you have a chip or not, right? Okay. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the dark web. What is the dark web? What is this mysterious dark web that everybody ever talks about? Well, if you think about the surface web, that's the web that we are on a regular occasion. The Wikipedias, the Googles, the Bings, the Facebook. That's above the surface. And under the surface, we have the deep web. And the deep web was kind of the beginnings of the internet. I mean, the internet was what, 1969, somewhere around there. The military recognized that they could use this protocol to exchange information, trade information, and the colleges picked up on it, okay? And with that, they created academic information, scientific reports. They passed legal documents back and forth. Everybody talked about Kermit with Columbia University. That's what it was used for, to exchange information and to trade information. It was never built for commerce, never. And which is why we're experiencing the problems that we are 36 years later, is because we never thought of it that way. We thought of it as to trade information and trade documents. So with that, you also have the dark web. And the dark web operates on, well, amongst one thing, a Tor network. Does anybody tell me what the Tor network is? Have you ever heard of it? It's anonymous web. Does anybody know what Tor stands for? The onion router. Okay, good. I love a classroom full of geeks. It's awesome. So yeah, the onion router. And the onion router, why do they call it the onion router? Think of an onion, layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, okay? So that's what it basically is. It's an onion router. So it bounces from one place to the next. I'm going to show you, if I can, and I may need an IT guy because I don't know what I'm doing. An actual,
It's on the bar. Down there.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
I see it, yeah. This is what a Tor browser looks like. Free to download on the internet, not on the dark web. You can buy it on, get it right on the regular web. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to look around on the internet anonymously. Well, for the most part, anonymously. So let's try something. And you're going to see it's a little bit slower than usual because it's taken the time to pass through and look around. So DuckDuckGo happens to be one of the browsers I use. Now see, I want you to pay attention up here. Right now it thinks I'm in France. Okay? This is what the IP address that I'm showing. So imagine me being an investigator. I spend, I come in, I find out something's been attacked. I start looking into we're able to finally find throughout the logs because this company was smart enough to log their data coming in and out of their network. And we find that it's 137.74.73179. So I said, oh, good, we got a suspect, right? Well, no, because it thinks that the suspect's in France and he's standing right here in North Providence, okay? So it's a real problem. I'm anonymous. Many of them, on top of that, they're going to put a VPN into this as well, a virtual private network, to further anonymize and put that tunnel. So that there are chances, there are some suggestions, and I know the FBI has done it, where they're able to get some of the information from the browser to figure out where the person is. So a VPN doesn't allow that. Now I want to show you, if I can, I don't know what let me just look at something if I can. I want to show you some of the stuff on the dark web. I think of the name of the browser.
Let's go to the hidden wiki.
Yeah, I don't want a wiki though. McFly. Give me 1 second. Bear with me if you would. All right. All right, this particular search engine I'm bringing up right now is used to search the dark web, to look for bad things. So if I type that in, let's type in, I don't know, what do we want to look for? Oops, if I could spell. All right, you'll have like a list of different malwares that are available on the dark web that you can go on and buy. There's also a site that is kind of like an Amazon of dark web, which is now the Silk Road 3. So we've seen many of them come and go because they get shut down eventually because they're selling drugs and selling whatever else. Oop. Silk Road 3 is still up.
safe.
That's right. You'll notice the, I don't know who that dude is, and I don't think that's not Silk Road. I'm going to infect your machine. Sorry. Hope you didn't have anything important on here. So I created an account on Silk Road 3 the other day on that machine over there. And I'm going to show you a couple of things while we're doing this that are available on Silk Road, so that you know that it's readily available. Uh-oh, what's going on here? What is it?
Yeah, in the bottom right corner.
Oh, there it is. Slideshow. There we go. All right. This is something I found. This was actually not on Silk Road. This was on a site that's been since shut down by the FBI. This is Black Shade's rat. Does everybody know what a rat is? Remote access terminal? Okay, what do you do with a rat?
You establish a backdoor into the machine.
Right, and once you get into the back door, what do you do?
Migrate.
Right, you move around and migrate. So this guy's selling a rat, fully built. You don't need to do anything. It's online. You go on there, you buy it, and they sell it for 1.10 of this at the time, was probably a couple months ago, $1 per day. Okay, it's pretty cheap. So you want to keep it for 30 days, 30 bucks, 30, 35 bucks by the time you're done probably, okay? I don't have to know anything about attacking machines or writing code. I can buy it on the dark web. You can see his explanation. It downloads onto the victim's machine when the victim accesses a malicious web page, known as a drive-by through external storage device such as USB flash drives. So it's all available, and there's different ways to launch it. So that's one way. So you're wondering right now, like, who are these villains that are out there attacking my machine? There could be a villain that knows nothing. That's the description of that particular rat. Access to the webcam. It's nice. Create a botnet, right? This guy was a rent-a-hacker. It's an actual site. He says he's an experienced hacker, and I don't think he spent any time studying spelling, but he spent a lot of time hacking. So legal hacking and social engineering is my business since I was 16 years old. Never had a real job, big shock. So I had the time to get really good at hacking, and I made a good amount of money in the last 20 plus years. All right. This is very good written and spoken English. Well, I don't know about written, but maybe spoken, I don't know. But he has some technical skills, HTML, PHP, SQL, and Apache, and C, C++. He's done some stuff, so he knows, and this guy's dangerous. I don't even have to download that rat now. I can hire this jackass to do it for me, okay? It's out there, folks. It's out there on the dark web, and it's available. Credit cards. Again, we talk about online sales and using your card online. Stolen credit card numbers with the numbers created, the cards created. They'll sell as many as 100 in a bundle. It's funny because if you would have seen more on this particular page, they have like, a lot of the dark web is based on trust. So how good is my product? Whether that be drugs, guns, stolen credit cards, it's all on trust. So those people that are on the dark web and that work there regularly, there's a trust factor. And those people on those trusts are judged on how good their product is by their trust factor. And trust factor doesn't only include how good their product is, but also includes as to whether or not they're safe. Am I going to get caught? Is it the FBI? Is it the state police that's actually trying to lure me in? Okay? So all this works on trust. We had a guy we arrested recently. He was in the narcotics trade. We hit his house, and we tried to get him to flip because he knew he was in trouble. And with that, we sat down with him, had a free talk, and he said, well, you know, I got a lot of trust on the web, and if you want to, we'll go on and we'll take a look at it, and we can figure out maybe you can use it to arrest other people. So we did, and we worked with them for a little while, and then the FBI shut down the site on us, so we weren't able to go any further with what we had. But the part of the problem with that as well is that the people we were talking to weren't in this state. They were either international or in another state. And that makes it difficult. So he was sending all these packages to a post office, like a postoffice.com, whatever it is. He was sending them to the mailbox.com, that type of stuff. And he had runners going out and collecting the packages. So somehow the drugs have to get there, and that's what burned them. It wasn't the actual online activity that he had. If you want to buy some counterfeit dollar bills or $20 bills, 5 for $20. And it passed the pet test, which is when they take, they take and they draw a little line on the dollar or the money and look at it. This was on Alpha Bay. Okay, not a pretty good return for anybody that wants to buy them. All right, so what should you do? What should you be doing at this point? And I may be preaching to the choir right now, but you have to know your network. The days of defense are over. You have to be ready and paying attention and recognize what's right and what's wrong in your network. If you don't know that, you better spend the next few days staring at it and figuring it out. It's very important to know the activity on your network. You'll notice if something's different. You can't sit there and wait to get attacked. You have to kind of sit there, and when you see something that doesn't look right, attack that and don't allow it to happen. Because lo and behold, when that CEO comes walking in and saying, what happened, you better have an answer. Limited access control, and it's something, the origins of cybersecurity, least access. Don't give everyone the keys to the kingdom. We see it all the time, and usually that's when that phishing attack happens, and that person that has the keys to the kingdom allows the bad guy into the kingdom. Okay? Whatever access they need, that's what they're given. That's what they're granted, period. You're going to get complaints probably from people because they want more, but you know better. Use tools to monitor your network and know what to look for. It kind of runs in sync with what the first thing I said is knowing your network. But use tools to look regularly. Don't sit and wait. Effective user training. Like I said, the first thing I want you to do is to suggest to your CEOs is that you give your people in the company effective user training. They need to know. They're the weakest link. And they shouldn't be the weakest link. They should be the strongest link. It has to be a culture. And if the culture isn't there from the CEO on down, it's not going to work. It has to be pushed out from the top. If he's just expecting you to sit in that basement with the mushrooms going in your ears and take care of it all, it's not going to work. Just not. Segregate your network. Again, I'll go back. I'll use Target as an example. They certainly did not do that. They had them touching each other. How you can go from an air conditioning system to the point of sales just is beyond me. Okay, it shouldn't happen. They have to be separate. Because once they get in, we said 200 days sometimes, 150 days. They're sitting there, they're looking for ways, and you're not even going to know they're there. They're going to be very quiet, the good ones. Very stealthy, they don't want you to know you're there, and they're going to keep on covering their tracks. Okay? So while they're sitting in there, they're looking to find more than what they've already got. It's always looking for more. Participate in intelligence exchange programs such as the JCTF. That's a shameless plug for me. How about your machines? Install the latest OS. Again, I don't want to insult your intelligence. You all know that. All components. And that doesn't only go for your machines in the office. It goes for your phone as well. Make sure the OS is up to date on your phone. And to include your applications. I used this example last night, and I said my wife would kill me, but she's terrible at that. Every time I grab a phone, she's got like 52 applications that need updating. She won't do it. It's a culture. Install service packs and updates. Again, I want to insult you. Update installed apps. I just said that. Install antivirus. Now, a lot of people ask, do I need antivirus on my phone? Yes, at this point you do. I absolutely think you do. And run scans regularly. Password policies. How many people have a password policy in their company? All right. It is a two-form authentication for some of you, I hope. Okay, so you have to, for example, sign into your email, but also go onto your phone, which is something that you have, right? And have like an authenticator, something like this, where they have to put that code in before they can actually get on. Real good idea. You're going to get some pushback in the beginning because people are lazy, but too bad. All right? It may save them from being that person that gets socially engineered. When your machine is clean and secure, keep a backup of that system. Tuck it away somewhere. Okay? There's nothing better than a nice clean machine to bring back online after you've been hit. Malware's hit one of your machines. Disable unnecessary services. We can get into third-party vendors and whatnot. Some of the Chinese vendors that are out there, most of the stuff that comes in these machines right now are coming from China, and there's been found hardware that is nefarious. Okay, but some of the bloatware that you get with your machines, clean that stuff off. There's no good reason to keep it on there because it's just another way to get in. If you're not using it, get rid of it. Unnecessary services like FTTP, if you're not using that, close those doors. Don't keep them open. All right, RDP, remote desktop, close it if you're not using it. If there's no need to have it and your services don't need it, then close it. And that brings up the subject of third-party vendors. A lot of the excuses I get is that, well, we have to keep that port open because they need to come in and service our machines regularly. You're using a third-party vendor. Make sure your third-party vendors are vetted. Not only vetted, but are actually doing what they're saying they're going to do. Call them on the carpet. This is their business, and it's their business model. And if they're not doing the right thing, then they're doing you a disservice. Okay? Use a firewall, again. Employee email security practice, we just talked about that. Gmail, some people are still using Gmail for their businesses, which is okay. Gmail does a damn good job with their email and strengthening their email, and they have two-factor authentication for free. All right. That is all I have. I will answer questions, but I know I have someone coming up right on, look at that, right to the minute, right on time. Any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
Can we just get a copy?
No. Yeah, you can get a copy. Yeah. Anything else? I can pass it over to Bill. I can give you the copy. I think you have it anyway, so yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. We've got coffee out back. For the folks on the webinar, we'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll have Tom Basiliere up next.